In this Homeland Security lecture, the subject matter expert discussed various presidential directives with similar titles. So you see here, as he gets to this point in the lecture, he's going to talk about PDD 63, HSPD 7, HSPD 9, HSPD 10, and PPD 21. Well, I don't know about you, but when I see all those letters and numbers, I don't know how I would make sense out of it. So I was concerned that the student would have a lot of trouble making sense out of it as well. So there's a lot of information that was provided in this lecture, and I was really challenged to find some way to help it make sense to the student. So here's what I did. First, let me just take you to one of the content slides. So this is for PDD 63. I decided for each of these to organize the information in some kind of a chart or a table so that the student would be able to categorize or to somehow compartmentalize or build a framework to gain understanding. I didn't want them to just hear about the information or see it in pieces where they didn't see how it all fit together. So I made sure that I kept to one slide, maybe two slides, so that as the instructor would speak, or the lecturer would continue the lecture, each piece of text would show up as it was spoken to. So it wasn't overwhelming, not too much writing on one page, but they would eventually see it all and be able to look at the purpose, the goals, some of them have objectives, and any other information that was available. The other thing I decided to do after I had finished putting together all of these tables is to find one really crisp, clear, simple graphic that would help them to remember the basic content. And so here you see in PDD 63, the purpose was to eliminate any significant vulnerability to both physical and cyber attacks on our critical infrastructures. So this is talking about especially, notice, our cyber systems. So I'm thinking cybersecurity, cyber attacks, and let's put a computer here. So I tried to do this with everyone, so I'm just going to take you through these a little bit. So here, HSPD 7, I used a bomb because this has to do with terrorist attacks, and I thought that that would be helpful for the student. And now remember, all this information is not here when the student first comes to this page. It all fills in as the lecturer continues and speaks about each of those segments. We have one that has to do with protecting agriculture and food system against terrorist attacks. So I put some wheat here to help them to remember that at HSPD 9 has to do with food. And here's one that has a gas mask, because here we're talking about biological weapons attacks. And then there's one having to do with resilience. For the life of me, I couldn't come up with anything that would show resilience, and so I'm just hoping that we'll remember the word resilience, because in this part of the lecture, he talks about it over and over again. Now, just to go back a little bit, the way I have this set up is that each time a student clicks the close button, and here I have a click box over the close button. I'm going to show you the properties. I execute an advanced action, and this is an advanced conditional action. Again, every time they click a close button on a segment of this lecture or one of the directives, and this will allow it that once they click, that they will jump back to the page, the original menu slide, or something else will happen. And what you see here is that when they click, they will jump to a slide called a matching activity if they have already visited every other page or every other directive. So if they have visited all of those, then we'll jump to the matching activity. And I'm also setting this so it shows a visited image, which a visited image is just a grayed out image of the original button that they clicked to get to this point, and assigns a specific variable about this content. They assign it a value of 1. And so you see above that if all of the other content, their variables are equal to 1, and this is equal to 1, then they will go to this matching activity. The else on here is to go back to slide 3 and to then also show the visited and assigning the variable with 1. And we do that for each of the pages, so that way the student always has to do this information, go through this part of the lecture, watch the information. They're looking at this image the entire time, and when they're finished and they click that close button, they're always going to jump back to this page because I want them to see all of these directives in order. I want them to see them graying out as they go through each one, and they can go in any order they want to listen to that portion of the lecture, which helps them to be able to go back and review a specific portion. But hopefully that they're making some kind of a connection between the information that they just heard and this entire list of directives. I want them to see these numbers, these letters and numbers over and over and over again throughout the lecture. And then once all of these have been visited, no matter which order, they're going to jump to a drag and drop activity. And this is just a simple drag and drop. I'll show you. There is nothing fancy about this. I just have it set so that they can't do anything but the correct answer. And that's just because it can become very, very frustrating to keep trying to put things in the right order, and it just doesn't work. So I wanted this to be simple for them, but I wanted to catch the titles or the numbers of each of these directives with the element that's going to help them remember what is in it. So let me show you what that looks like. Here's the interaction. Notice if I take this, if I try to drop it somewhere where it doesn't belong, it's going to eventually go to the right position. So hopefully they'll remember. If nothing else, they're going to remember HSPD 9 has something to do with food. They're going to remember that HSPD 7 has to do with something with terrorism and bombs, and then that PPD 21 has to do with resilience. And that's it. They can go through the rest of the lecture, but the whole purpose of this is just a simple matching drag and drop to reinforce learning of complex material.